Hey, yo, what's up, everybody? It's me, Joe Pisapia, and welcome to the ever first episode of In This Ring, the wrestling podcast on the In This League podcast network. I am your host, and joining me is another one of your favorite fantasy folks out there. He does baseball, he does football, he does windows, he does everything. He's my good pal, Tim Heaney. Tim, what's happening, my brother?
Hey, not much, man. I think we should have had Howard Finkel introduce us for this thing.
That would have been great. Howard Finkel was unavailable for this episode.
As good as you are, Joe. As great as you are.
Ladies and gentlemen. Well, I'll tell you what, this podcast is scheduled for multiple falls. That's all I know.
Many falls.
Many falls. So many falls, the best falls. But we are here, and this is a show that Welsh and Bogman are supporting us with. And by supporting, I mean emotionally, not financially, just completely emotionally. But this is a passion of mine and Tim's. We are big professional wrestling fans. We'll talk about WWE stuff. We'll get into the New Japan stuff, Ring of Honor stuff. Today's episode is going to be mostly WWE, though, because we are getting closer and closer. And we are basically, let's face it, Tim, on the road to WrestleMania. We're coming right off of the big show this past weekend, the Sunday Elimination Chamber. Now, the men's match to me was not the match of the night. I thought the women's Elimination Chamber was more entertaining. But since the implications are big, let's start with the men. And, Roman Reigns was the, de facto. Everybody thought, it's just going to be Roman. It's going to be Brock. But the push for Braun has been so strong of late, the last couple months, and all this "you've never pinned me" stuff and all this stuff. And it seems like the crowd swell for Braun has been so spectacular. Were you surprised that they ended up going default, or is this status quo, WWE exactly what we thought they were?
Status quo. I mean, they've been building this since 31, basically, since Seth got that, the triple threat, cash in. The Braun stuff has been so organic and beautiful. You and I love when that happens. Most of the crowd loves when someone, quote unquote, grabs the brass ring by themselves and doesn't have to be storyline squeezed into things. I'm not a Roman hater, though. The hatred lies in the fact that, they're not listening to their fans, sometimes with these things. But the Roman Brock should still be a solid match. And the fact that Braun is making his own name for himself, maybe creative thinks that he can just do his own thing and that'll still get some support. The booking of the match was kind of letting us down from the beginning because they were having Braun eliminate everybody, and then Roman is the only one that could even, hold a candle basically to him. I wish we would have given the rub to some other guys involved in the match, even though, sure, it wasn't going to be one of those other guys, but at least make us think for a little bit that it wasn't the way that it was going to be scripted.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I'm with you. I'm not a Roman hater either. Roman's actually had some really good matches, and the argument that people are going to give you, I would say even in the last couple of months, I mean, that match he had with Bray Wyatt a couple of weeks ago was very good. Mm-hmm. People say, well, he's only as good as the guy he's working with. And I could tell you, I mean, I've been in the fight game for a long time. I mean, those people who only know me as a fantasy analyst, I've been training since I was 17, 18 years old. I've worked with dozens of different weapons. I teach stage combat to actors. So I understand this world of the, where they're at. And I know a lot of these guys who have, worked in this industry. And, my stuff is more on the acting side of things. There's obviously the professional wrestling side, but I understand what's going on. And I could tell you, you're only as good as your dancing partner, right? So you can't get blood from a stone. You can't work with people who can't work in the ring. And yeah, of course, if you have somebody who's good working with somebody great, sure, it's easy to be great when you're working with AJ Styles. It's really, it's hard to be good when you're working with a stiff, and Roman's not a stiff. And I know that he gets a lot of heat because of the moveset, where he's got a lot of predictable movesets and all that stuff. And I don't know about you, Tim, but it makes me always think of The Undertaker. I mean, God bless Undertaker in the gimmick, and, he was very revolutionary at the time, and he was able to always evolve, and I get all that stuff. But I've never been a huge Undertaker guy. Great respect for him. But, I mean, at the end of the day, he's the same, half a dozen moves in different situations. He's very predictable. So I don't see all that. If that's the reason you hate Roman, I think it's kind of crap. Now, what'd you think of on Monday Night Raw when he went out there, the promo he cuts on Brock, which, we all know these promos are, sometimes based in some sort of small tinge in reality. I kind of like that whole we're out here working our butts off, you show up, you're a prima donna thing. I like the angle he's working there.
I think it's a good way to fashion this that we would like it, for the shoehorning storyline type of stuff. It was the same thing basically with what they were doing with Cena, just turned up to like 12 on volume, I think. The Brock Lesnar thing is a well-known critique of, I guess, I don't want to call us smarks. We haven't even thought of our name for that. We're not really smarks because I think we actually do appreciate things and not just try to crap on everything. But the Brock being absent thing is a big debate. Is the champion prestige because of it, or is the championship wasted because it's barely there? Playing off of that is a nice way for the writers to kind of roll with this emotion. And I think maybe remind us why we liked Roman Reigns, just the way he was a badass. And when he talks impassionately and not trying to do nursery rhymes, it's a very different guy. I mean, the Shield version of Roman was just, I'll say a sentence or two and you're going to fear me and then you're going to love me. So I think they were trying to move in that direction again. I really like that. I think this is that Roman Cena twinge it was nice that they're getting back to that sort of character with Roman now.
Well, I'll say this too about Roman. To me, I think with Roman, he does have a respect and a passion for the business. And, like I said, I totally understand why he gets heat from the fan base, especially the hardcore NXT fan base, which is more, even where you and I lie. I mean,
yeah.
I go well back. I lived in Philadelphia during the ECW days of the beginning of ECW. Like, I get the hardcore, tough, we are the real base audience here. But, it's more than just that. And I just think sometimes he gets a little unwarranted heat. I'm not sure where the spinoff's going. It feels like from Monday Night Show that they're possibly starting this, whether it be a three-way thing between The Miz and Seth and Balor, or maybe just a Rollins-Balor spinoff. But Rollins Balor 2 or whatever you want to call it, I'm all for that.
At this point.
5, 6, 3, however many we're up to. But on the grand stage, really, I'm all for that if that's the way they want to go, because at least we know the quality of the match is going to be. I mean, that's probably going to be the match that seals the night if that is where they're going. Do you think that's where they're pushing towards?
I mean, it's funny because I think I could see a triple threat match happening for either of the two big men's title matches.
Right. If you get Braun in there for the big one too, just sneak him in.
I mean, I don't know if we're going to talk about this later, but the reports about Braun Strowman maybe being a backup plan in case the performance-enhancing drugs thing with Roman or Brock kind of folds over or something. There's this rumor that Dave Meltzer said that they're trying to keep Braun as a backup plan for the main event, or maybe a triple threat or something. But a Miz Balor Rollins triple threat would be. I think that would be close to the match of the night, if not the match of the night. If you're not counting Styles and Nakamura, which I would assume would be the one to steal the show, but that would be probably the sleeper match of the night, if nothing else.
And we'll get to that later too. Yeah. We'll talk about that John Cena free agency hopping all over. Which, side note, by the way, I did love how he worked the crowd there with that whole me versus the Undertaker thing, and everybody talk about hook, line, sinker. Everybody. Man, people bite hard on that. All right, let's talk about the Women's Elimination Chamber. We all knew that, what the outcome of this was going to be, but it doesn't matter because what's great about, I always say this to, my students when I teach and stuff like that. Everybody knows how Hamlet ends. Everybody knows, it's how you play it. It's how you execute it that make people care about you as the character or care about what's going on. And the execution in the women's match has been great. I think in some way, we've said obviously, Paige not being able to participate, and we'll see where that's all going. That seems very hazy and weird. No. It is, but you know what? I mean, if anything, I think it's given a little bit more highlight to Mandy, who I think is just spectacular in-ring performer. It's somebody, she has a look, she has the strength, she has the charisma.
Oh, sure.
And this whole Sasha Bailey turn thing that looks like it's about to happen where Sasha's going heel finally, I'm all for. I like it. I think that's, where it needs to go. And that's another, marquee matchup where, if they build it properly over the next couple of weeks into WrestleMania, that's going to be a hot match too, because I don't know I'm curious what you think of it, but all around, is Banks the best female all around person they have?
All around. That's the ultimate question for promo and in ring and all that stuff and character work. I think she probably has the best of each column.
Right.
So Alexa's the best talker.
Right.
Asuka's the best in-ring performer at the main roster right now.
Agreed.
Charlotte's probably give them for running for the best in-ring as well. And she can do really well on promos when it has to be too. Yeah, I mean, Sasha probably checks each box the most effectively for me.
Right.
I'll say that.
And I think as a heel, I think it elevates her. I think she's kind of stalled out because, there's just nowhere. I think on the Raw roster, there's nowhere for her to go. And I think that's somebody immediately that if she went over and had a feud or someone went over to the SmackDown, which I think on the women's side is a little light right now, because I don't see the challenger for Charlotte at WrestleMania, how that's going to work out.
Yeah, it's going to be weird. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll get to that a little bit later. But overall, I thought the match was terrific. Alexa's terrific, great work by her. So, I think we can all look to that. Now, in terms of the other women's match here, obviously we all knew Asuka was going to win as well. Nia's another one of these competitors. Again, great in-ring worker, great presence, all that stuff. She's not terrible on the mic.
Not terrible.
But I don't know if they really know what to do with her at this point. It's like, I think the best way to deal with her is to give her the strap, man, and let her be a champ somewhere. Because I think without that, it's almost like she could be the great foil. But the problem is, I think she has to be at the top and that kind of approach. And it's not going to happen because Asuka's going to go right past her. And that's another one where I say, well, what do you do with her? Maybe you have to move her to the different show.
Yeah, I guess we'll talk about it now. I mean, Asuka, they never really confirmed for sure. She never declared that she was doing the Raw title, right?
See, I thought she was, and I think that's the whole thing where Nia's going after her.
Yeah, but they insinuated. I don't know if they ever really. They don't have a graphic up yet. They don't have anything like that. That's
a good point. I haven't seen a graphic for it.
Part of me thinks she's going to challenge Charlotte Asuka, and then they'll do the Nia Alexa surprise. Like, oh crap, I'm facing Nia instead. But I mean, I think that would be the most logical story payoff here, unless they're doing Becky and Charlotte for SmackDown, which would also be great. But yeah, the narrative here is kind of weird. Nia's just kind of stuck. They don't have a secondary women's title, which is kind of hurting things right now.
I'll say this.
I don't know if they should have one, but it's kind of the way they're booking, and they're too packed with people.
I'll say this. I think Asuka Charlotte would be better all the way around.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this much too. If they can figure out a way with Alexa and Sasha and Bayley, or however you want to make it a 4-way, throw Nia in there too, and you want to push that as the Raw women's, that's fine too, and make it. And if you really want to get some heat on Sasha fast, make it a situation where she screws Bayley out of that championship and then make that a huge feud going forward. And I also think they've got enough women now on both sides to start with a women's tag team division. And especially with the Ember Moons of the world and the Kairi Sanes were coming through the pipeline, the women are some of the best storylines, the best workers right now. To me, it's a no-brainer to have some sort of even if it floats between shows. I know they're getting rid of the brand splits at pay-per-views. So even if it was just a women's tag team championship and it was just up all the time, it doesn't matter which section they're coming from to fight for it. I think it's time to add that as well. Let's talk about the other big deal in terms of women's wrestling with WWE was the Ronda Rousey appearance. Oh, the Ronda Rousey at the Royal Rumble, where I kept saying she reminded me of that evil monkey from Family Guy that just kept pointing. Yeah,
point to the sign, damn it.
Point to the sign. Rhonda, point to the sign. Did you point to the sign? Wait, how many times did she point to the sign? 8?
17?
Okay, 7 more. 7 more times. But make sure you do it in an awkward way where it looks like you're smiling and then you get really mad really fast and you point to the sign. Oh, it was
everyone has to point to the sign.
I know, but it was just so.
She heavy-handed. She was like, I don't want to mess this up my first time, so I'll do it 18,000 times.
She did, and not only did she do it 18,000 times, but it was the manner in which she's like, "Hey, what's up, crowd? Hey," and she's all cool, and then stone face point to the sign. It was so awkward.
It's like when your acting class is like you're trying to switch emotions and on a
yeah. And if someone did that, I would hammer. I would say, "What the hell are you doing?" Like. Haven't you ever heard of the slow burn, for God's sake? But here is the spot now, because we've seen this progression, and obviously they're setting up some sort of weird Triple H, Stephanie, Kurt Angle angle here. There's some angle, whatever. I have my opinion on this, which is I think that this whole Ronda Rousey experiment is not going to work. I often think that whenever you bring someone from the outside like that into this world, it's never going to be the same thing as the Rocks and Batistas and Stone Colds and the people that organically grow into movie stars. Bringing celebrities in, to me, never works. Creating your own celebrities does, and I get why they're doing it. I understand the eyes. I get it all. I just don't think she's ever going to have that sort of charisma and connectivity to the audience in that sort of arena, because it's sports entertainment. It's not sports and it's not entertainment. It's this weird hybrid thing. It's both. And I just don't feel like she has that other factor where she's going to connect. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she'll get maybe she'll be so great in the ring that people will be okay with that, because I think they're more apt to do that nowadays than they were maybe even 10, 20 years ago. But do you think that this Rousey experiment's going to work out? Is this going to be one of these things we look back on and go, oh, God, remember that?
If she breaks Asuka's streak, that's one thing. If they're building her up to do that, then I'm really gonna be frustrated at that. But
I agree. That would piss me off as a true fan. That would piss me
a
off.
spit in the face to the Sashas, the Baileys, and all them. The ones who actually work to do this, like Ember Moon, all those people should have a shot to do something like that. If they keep it as a side thing, and maybe like eventually this summer, if she proves herself, she does work into some major storylines, and then maybe next WrestleMania she has a big thing. Maybe she proves herself fine. I'm willing to see where it goes. I just think Shayna Baszler's already going to be better than what Ronda's upside in the ring could be. She's better now than she's going to be, I think.
You might be right.
I mean, Shayna's a great character if you watch NXT.
She is. And the first time the exposure I got watching the Mae Young Classic with her and that final match with her and Kyrie, I thought was terrific. And, I get why we're doing it. We all understand it's business. We all understand it's the show, and bring in the big names. It puts more eyeballs on. I get it all. It's fine. And as much as it's going to piss people off in the locker room, they also have to understand, well, hey, if this is going to elevate the product and we're going to sell more tickets and we're going to, sell more network shares and all that stuff, then that's it's money for all of us. But it's at least with somebody like Rousey, that she's put in her dues in terms of the world of fighting and the world of grinding and all that stuff. So I think it's a little bit different. Plus, everyone's probably actually afraid of her, which is legitimate as well. So we'll see where that all goes. It's something I am very much on the negative. We'll see. I can be turned around. I've been turned around before. We'll see what happens. The Bray Wyatt Matt Hardy feud is going to continue. I have to say,
for whatever reason.
Well, I mean, they need each other right now.
I guess, yeah.
There's moments of it that are very charming. Like when Bray did his thing where he grabs on and he flips his head back on the ropes, and Matt Hardy just applauded him and then got the crowd to give a standing ovation. That was great. The problem I have with it, if I'm on the Bray Wyatt end, is it's kind of taking all the thunder out of my character. Like, I think it's really after this Matt Hardy feud is done, we all know Wyatt has to win, in my opinion. There's no way they can let Matt Hardy win at WrestleMania on it. Because if he does, it's basically going to put Bray Wyatt into this weird, or should I say even weirder middle tier. Because if you kind of take away all that illusion of interesting darkness from his character, then what are you left with? You're left with a big guy who works better for his size than you would anticipate. But now you've stolen all of his danger.
Yeah, I mean, for however they've kind of, watered down Matt Hardy's broken stuff, he can lose. He's the one who can afford to lose and still get over with people. He doesn't need a victory. The fact that he's broken, he shouldn't be winning as much, kind of,
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Bray's been in this vortex for years, and, maybe sucking Matt into that vortex with him is kind of, like you said, the only place they can be right now creatively, because, where else are you going to put him? I just want to see if, now that they have kind of the rights to the entire universe, reportedly, I want to see if they can actually expand on it, do more pre-tape video stuff, which the pre-tape video stuff was the best part of the whole thing in TNA. It wasn't necessarily the ring work. It wasn't necessarily anything else. It was just the kookiness, the campiness, the B-movie type of stuff that Matt and Jeff were doing. I guess when Jeff comes back, they'll probably dive more into that. But, yeah, like you said, they're kind of they're focused on each other, and that's the only place they can really be. I just hope I wish they wouldn't fight each other as much. I think they're overexposing the in-ring stuff right now. They should be doing more of the vignettes. They can get over without really having to be actually appear in the ring at all these times, and just kind of, make it less of an event that they're actually fighting.
Well, I think it all depends on how quickly Jeff comes back. If Jeff Hardy can make it back, then, and there's been a lot of rumors too that they're going to separate them and Jeff's going to have one more run in singles, which I think is good. I think it would be good to see, or if they're gonna do this whole, bring back the whole band and do the Brother Nero bit and the whole thing. That's fine too. But I'm with you. Make sure you're doing these bits and make sure you let him really do it. Get him out in the open too, the way some of those other bits. Let him go talk to giraffes again and any kind of crazy crap you could possibly think of.
Stop with the laughing. Ease up on the laughing, because that's the only thing they're harping on right now.
They are, and they're pushing that. And like my kids, I have two daughters. They're 5 and 8. they're wrestling fanatics and they love him. They think he's hilarious. So I get it from a kid standpoint, from the younger audience, it's very connective. But yeah, it's going to wear thin even on them if you don't start to, let him do his bits. Go out there and I think broken Matt Hardy or woken Matt Hardy, whatever kind of Matt Hardy you want to talk about, him out in public doing things is where you want him to be. I think that is a strong thing for them. Or even if it's in the arena doing things,
Right. Yeah.
Let him have his own show. If you do the little, like, Miz does his little show, if you have some sort of woken Matt Hardy show or some sort of thing like that, that would be great, because I'd rather watch him do that for 10 minutes probably than work in the ring at this point.
Right. Oh, yeah.
I mean, well, and it's not.
No, you're right.
He just doesn't work as, like, he's had a lot of injuries. He's had a lot. You could see the business is taking its toll on him physically. And I think that's the point. It's hard to watch him sometimes. He's still good. He still gets it done. But, it's a little hard to watch. I don't know about you, Tim, too, before we switch gears. We'll go through Raw a little bit, too. But as we're here on Raw, still in the brand, is it just me, or is the tag team division just lost all of its luster there? I mean, the bar just has no competition. I love Apollo in the ring and stuff, but there is just absolutely nothing there. And I don't know what they're going to build for them come WrestleMania time, because all the good tag teams are over on the SmackDown side. Yeah,
I mean, they're taking their time with the Revival, if they're even really thinking about doing anything with them. The club is just kind of still Balor's sidekicks, which, that's very useful for Balor, but you need to kind of push them a little bit more here as something else. And Mr. Oz is just kind of, jobber fodder right now. Yeah, it's weird because the NXT tag team division is stacked.
Yeah, huge.
I wonder if, they're really just kind of laying low until the call-ups happen. You got to wonder if teams like Authors of Pain will be up soon, or I don't know, TM61 probably needs a little bit more time. Like guys,
Authors of Pain are ready. I think
they are too. I think they've peaked. They're going to put over somebody in the Dusty Classic, and that'll be fine. But yeah, I think they're just kind of, like you said, holding pattern. Call-ups might affect things, but they're really kind of just doing time killing right now with the tags.
Yeah, and it's just, I don't know where the direction's going, and
I love the bar, but yeah,
I love the bar too, and I'm all about them, and it's the perfect spot for Sheamus to be at this point in his career, because he's also a bit limited, but them together works. The persona works. Everything about them works. They just need a good foil, and they don't have one. And if it's going to be Gallows and Anderson, they better get on that soon, because they need to build that quickly if they're going to make that. And I thought that's where they were going to, but now I'm completely unsure. And it just seems like the injuries they've had to their roster, they've gotten thin. I think originally too, there was, they probably wanted to either keep building that whole Dean and Seth thing with them all the way to WrestleMania, or, I thought for or Jason Jordan thing, and then he got hurt, and then, with Samoa Joe out, you took him out of the other thing, so you had to put a guy like Miz up in the spot. Everything got so moved around because they've had so many injuries ever since that big Cass injury. It was like a huge string of injuries on that particular show where they just got so roster thin, where I think that they just got limited, and now it's starting to show there. I think that's where it's showing the most. They've done okay, but in the tag team division, that's where it's really starting to show. All right, let's go over to the rest of Raw. Anything else you want to take away before we turn the page there? We talked a little bit about Cena's thing. We talked a little about the Rousey thing. Is there anything else before you turn the page that's interesting to you?
I mean, the Sasha elements of the heel turn have been good. I mean, I want to go back to just the Women's Chamber for a second. Absolution, they were booked pretty well, I got to say. And we're kind of seeing more of that on Raw a little bit there, being a little bit more diabolical. Sonya and Mandy have grown the last few weeks, I got to say. They've kind of made their element as a stable there pretty well. Elias obviously was very, very nice on the Chamber. I wish they would have had him playing in the guitar in the pod the whole time. That would have been a really sweet, addition to
He's been terrific too. It's nice to see him get some time, and he is very fun. I was at the live event over Christmas, and he came out, and the Gallows and Anderson actually were out with him, and they sang "Freebird." It was hilarious.
And I sing "Freebird" because that's the worst thing to sing on acoustic.
I know, and he did it, and it was just great. And everybody's looking at us like, this is what you get when you go to a house show, because you get everybody just having a good time. I will say the one thing I like, the gauntlet match 2 weeks ago was terrific.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Very cool thing. I think what you're seeing too is a little bit more of that Triple H influence lately, because if you look at that show, the big knock on the show has been lately too much talk, not enough action.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say in the last month, you've gotten more wrestling on Raw, more actual in-ring action on Raw than I've seen on Raw in ages. And I think it's very positive, and I think it's a step in the right direction, and I feel like they're listening to the fan base.
Yeah, consistently above average shows in that time for sure. Compared to what the show we're going to talk about next, it's been, a breath of fresh air to see how much they've been doing there. Yeah, the talk about Vince, actually, the rumor of him doing more work with the XFL and leaving a little bit more creatively to Triple H. 205 Live's been great lately too, and I guess maybe we'll get into that a little bit. But Triple H having more influence on wrestling shows is a good thing. So.
All right, we're going to hit a break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little SmackDown, the other side of the coin. You're listening to In This Ring with Tim and Joe. All right, welcome back, everybody, to In This Ring. Tim Heaney over there, Joe Pisapia right here, talking everything professional wrestling. Again, this is a heavy WWE show today because of, obviously, the road to WrestleMania. And if
Point to the sign!
Point to the sign! Hashtag point to the sign. That's going to be the hashtag of today's episode.
Name of the episode.
So let's go right to the big one. Let's go right to Cena Styles and Cena going out there and getting involved in this mix. And I think it's good from a support aspect. And Cena's done a great job of late. And I'm not the biggest Cena guy in the world. I never have been. I never will be. But I do have a lot of respect for Cena. And I also like that Cena will always put the young guys over, which is a knock that I always had on a lot of those other dudes. It's why I'm not a Hogan guy. Ever, when your job in that second, tier of your career is to put the younger guys over.
Yep.
And Cena's done an admirable job of that. And he's had some good matches lately too. I think the little time away has kind of refreshed him a little bit. And I see a little bit more of a pep in his step lately. What was your takeaway from that? Number one, the whole promo, him coming into the situation, getting into the mix over on this show, and the match itself that closed the show last night.
Oh, this arc has been really good. When he wants to really, hammer a point home about his character development, he will do it. And like you said, the putting young guys over thing, people criticize him about the Nexus stuff back in the day and the Bray Wyatt stuff, and the Rusev stuff, which I don't think that was all him doing that. But anyway, he's making up for that a lot lately. And, he and Styles just work together seamlessly. They could put on a good match in their sleep, I think. The chemistry is just off the charts. I like the way that they're creating some urgency with this about how he thinks he doesn't have it anymore. He needs to have that prove it type of match here, the big stage type of thing. The tease for this, what happened with this match was nice, and they paid it off. And 6-pack challenge, here we come. I think if you're going to throw 5 in, you might as well throw 6 in with John Cena, with a little bit more of a credit to the other guys, just to put Styles over. So yeah. I like
what helps the pay-per-view numbers too.
Yeah,
I mean, for those of you who don't have the network, if you're just buying the pay-per-view on the way out, that the Cena marquee helps. It absolutely does. It makes a significant difference. So if you're ever wondering why does this stuff happen, well, that's why. It's a numbers thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, absolutely, and I think it was a necessary addition to make more WrestleMania drama out of it, and I like it.
Yeah. The Ziggler aspect of it, I loved. I loved Dolph Ziggler coming out of the crowd, kicking Kevin Owens in the back of the head hard, by the way. And to me, this is another guy, Ziggler gets heat from some people and all this stuff. If you're talking about another total package guy, of a guy who works great in the ring, a guy who can talk, a guy who checks every box, good-looking guy, does everything right, and he sells the hell out of everything. Dolph Ziggler will make anybody look spectacular. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the things I love about Gable too, but Ziggler especially. And I like that there was a little break from him. It was good. I thought the break was going to be longer than it was. I don't know if they've defined what he is at this point, but I think what you're starting to see of this guy who comes out in the black and he just knocks people out and doing these things and is kind of just on his own, I think it's getting into the point where it's more reminiscent of a character you'd see in a Ring of Honor kind of spot or one of the indie things, like a how do I put it? More like a guy who is basically on his own loner, a very millennial-ish type of identification character.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing for him to be in. And I think if they don't screw it up and they just let it keep organically happening, letting him do it, I think they actually might have something here.
Well, yeah, anti-hero-ish type stuff, like Braun's been doing, tweener, that type of thing. You know, I mean, the fact that he gave up the U.S. title, kind of, you know, that's a sore point I could see with some people say, oh, but you're putting it back in the title picture. I mean, one is just as filler, you're putting it back in there basically right now, I would think. Second, you know, there's character development stories like that. You think you give up on something and then you're coming back refreshed. He even comes back with his music now, even with the record scratch sometimes, and you know that's kind of a sign that, like, you know, he's getting back to what we should admire about him, the competitor that he was. You know, in ring, he was, you know, definitely one of the more consistent guys in the last probably decade or so, if not for injuries. So yeah, I like this little nod that he's getting this second time, as long as, you know, him signing the new contract, if there's something to that where they might have long-term plans for him. I want to see where it goes.
I'll tell you what, I think that there was a spot that the whole thing went down with that championship. Here's my take on it, and see if it's a hot take or not.
Mm-hmm.
There was too many times in a row where Ziggler's just putting guys over. And for him to lose to Bobby Roode again or drop that title to him would have just been a suicide for him.
Mm-hmm.
Him dropping it, walking away from it, is the only way you can salvage a little bit of credibility for him still in the storylines of stuff, and have a little break and have him come in. And I like the whole record scratch up front. I like the whole walking out to black in silence. I like the whole thing. I think you should go with it. Maybe it's time for a whole music change. You know, maybe just keep going with this. Or maybe that's his thing. Like, he just comes out in silence. I mean, how great is that? What a like you said, anti-hero, you know, completely different than something anyone else is doing. And I know sometimes the WWE will panic about that.
Right. I mean, you know, he could be arrogant and blasé and still be kind of, you know, cheered for a lot. I mean, I don't know how they would feel about having, you know, no music to finish a match, because I think they've kind of went back into that with his music being more so there. But yeah, ring entrance that's still blank would give him a little bit more of a way to stand out.
Yeah, I think they've got the makings of something really special there. I hope they either stick with it or don't force anything extra on top of it and let it play out. You know, I mentioned Bobby Roode, so let's chat about him too. Look, this is a tough spot. A lot of these guys who never make it on the main roster, it's for a reason why they bounce around the independents. And Bobby Roode's a good worker. Bobby Roode, you know, has put in his dues. Bobby Roode in NXT was entertaining. My problem is right now, if they don't flip him heel, and I mean hard heel, heel, he is going to die and fizzle out quicker than anybody I've seen in a long time with the kind of buildup that he had, because he doesn't have, he can't carry the face persona on this stage. He can't do it, because basically that character that he's playing is, you know, I mean, it's like a bad version of Ric Flair, you know, in the robe and the whole thing and the glorious and all this stuff. It's just, it's fun when he's evil and bad. But right now he's in this weird, like in between, man, and it's just not working. He's in limbo, and I don't know if Randy Orton is the right foil for it. Maybe he is, because Orton can be so liked by the crowd at times and the masses. So maybe it's time for him to just start flipping that switch and get awfully rude, awfully fast.
I see what you did.
You
there.
Like that? You see what I did?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go point to a sign now.
Pun entirely intended on this show for sure.
Hashtag point to the pun.
You nailed it. I mean, Bobby Roode as a heel is so much more interesting, and WWE main roster babyface does not suit him at all. You know, canned promo and stuff like that, being all nice. You know, Bobby Roode, TNA, NXT. You know, heel champ wears the suit, not the robe everywhere. Beats up on underdog Roderick Strong. That was one of the better underrated NXT storylines of the last year or so. You know, making fun of his family and stuff like that, hitting on his wife. That's Ric Flair type stuff, but it's also, you know, it's condescending heel Bobby Roode, which is always fun to, and his promos just take another step up when he does that sort of character. So yeah, the U.S. title picture is just kind of, I don't know, Orton finding something for him to do. I guess it's okay. Maybe if the crowd cheers the RKO and Roode kind of, you know, gets jealous of it's more over than him. Maybe that's something that'll turn him heel. But yeah, it's a weird spot for Bobby, and I was a big fan of him in NXT. I hope they can find the right spot for him.
All right, now on the tag team side of SmackDown, if you want to talk about how there's nothing going or nothing exciting on the Raw side, the SmackDown side could not be more exciting, in my opinion. New Day, Usos have really, this year, 2017 into 2018, they've really come into their own. I mean, they've really found, and this is what I mean about when you let things organically happen. And the same thing happened with New Day. When you let things kind of organically grow on their own into something, that's what it's all about. The Bludgeon Brothers, I mean, this whole weird Hammers 1980s gimmick thing.
Yep.
There's part of me that's like, this is such a tragedy. And the other part of me goes, well, maybe, just maybe, if they take it the right way and they don't take themselves too seriously, it could be very entertaining. But regardless, we all know in the ring, they're good. So it's not a question of their in-ring. And then right now, on the outside looking in is Benjamin and Gable. And I'm the biggest Chad Gable fan there is. The other night when he German suplexed Big E, I fell off my couch, man.
Well,
that guy is a spectacular athlete, and he can talk. To me, he is all those things of why back in the the 90s when you saw Shawn Michaels with the Rockers, you went, that guy's a star. And it's only going to be a matter of time before, I think by this time next year, we're talking about Gable in a serious singles match at WrestleMania. But in the meantime, I would love to take Benjamin and Gable and put them over on the Raw side somehow. Yep. And can they please fight the bar? And can we just let, do a three-way dance with the rest of those guys and then just let the others on the other side just figure that out, man, because you've got an embarrassment of riches here. So how do you see this working out? I see the Usos, coming out victorious here. This has been the Usos' year. This is their time. And I just don't think right now, I don't see any other way around that.
They don't deserve to lose him yet. I agree with you. It's just, I was about to say they should loan. So, the Superstar Shakeup, they should definitely poach SmackDown tag teams onto Raw and then maybe move one of those other tag teams here. It's so funny because, Bludgeon Brothers, we know Luke Harper is a stellar in-ring worker.
And looks great, by the way.
Yeah.
He's really changed the body. He looks strong, fast. He's dropped probably at least 30 to 50 pounds. I mean, he has done a great job, Tim.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, New Day is, I think, people just really putting teams over at this point more than anything. They got to figure out something where their future lies with maybe a Big E singles run or something like that because he's overdue for that again. But yeah, the SmackDown has, like you said, they're bloated with good tag teams at this point. And, Benjamin, Gable, I mean, I don't know if I want to do the traditional breakup. I think Benjamin might just kind of fade away with Gable. When Gable goes single, Benjamin, his contract might be done at that point or something.
Right. And now it's been good for him, too, to have that kind of a base guy with him.
Absolutely.
It's kind of let him be the star because, Benjamin, great worker, but we all know the limitations he has in terms of on the mic. So, I mean, it's a perfect spot where Gable can be the shining star of that group and then break off from there. And I think that's where they're going to spin him pretty soon.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, they should bring back the towel, though. I don't know if they've been using it, but.
Yeah, they should bring that back. And I'll tell you what, too. I saw the groundswell happening in the last event I was at in New York last year. But the Rusev groundswell over the last couple months has been – you want to talk about something that's organically happening right now? Let me tell you, Tim, it's Rusev Day every day. And it's almost making me tolerate Aiden English. That's how good –
I thought you'd be all about the stage performer character.
I am, but the problem is I hate his voice so much. It's just it's so bad.
It's meant to be that way, but
and he's so pasty, and it's just hard to watch.
Leave us transparent people alone, Joe.
Current company obviously out of the equation. I get it, but Rusev, another guy too. Rusev right now and Rusev 6 months ago, body type wise, big change. We're looking at a guy who's taking it real serious. He doesn't really have a clear opponent right now. Him and Aiden English, I don't know where they're all floating around here. But Rusev, I think, deserves, and should I say, the crowd is going to demand him have some sort of legit match, I think, at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
So where does that come from, in your opinion? How do they work in Rusev and make it Rusev Day?
I would put him against Rude. And I would have Rude be jealous of Rusev Day, and that could be a great way to turn Rude heel to go against Rusev, and then have Rusev be the U.S. champ at some point. Maybe that's a WrestleMania match right there. Maybe they're really holding that back.
So would you work that as a three-way dance, or would you keep those guys separate?
You mean Orton and them?
Well, I'm saying it seems like the Orton Rude push is going to go further. Now, if you're telling me they're working that in a way where they're going to get Rusev involved between Fastlane and WrestleMania, I'm game for that, where he comes out at Fastlane, screws both of them, and it's Rusev Day. I'm good with that too.
Yeah. I think there's a way you can do it. Like, you have so much time now to plan that, so I think you can make it work, and I think that's a way to do a nice official character turn, I guess, because they're still kind of booking Rusev as a heel, even though it's totally against the crowd reaction. But I think that's a way you can kill two birds with one stone with that.
Yeah, I mean, and he's got his whole stable too, because Lana's there with the wife, and they've got that whole chant with the Lana is the best, Lana number one. Yeah. Speaking of which, have you watched? I've watched the mixed match tags. I think they've been very entertaining. I've watched it on Facebook Live, and we've watched some of them on the network, the kids and I. I like it. I think it's fun. I think it's interesting, and I think it's really important to show them having a good time and doing some of these things where you can see there's no pressure of anything, just going out there and performing. And I think it's very endearing, and I think it's another one of these things that not everything they do works, but when something they do clicks like this, I think this is something they should do on an annual basis.
Oh, for sure. I mean, they have some sort of like offshoot competition like this would be cool. I totally agree that the way that they're able to kind of cut loose a little bit and be funny, and even the heels can be a little bit goofy and not really have it ruin their character development. I think it's kind of a nice like the Saturday morning programs. I would think that kind of used to be that way, that tone of just showing a different side of these workers that we watch and think of in a certain way. It's pretty cool. I mean, the coupley stuff is nice, and Sammy and Becky had that cool, was it the ginger stuff, the ginger tag team or something like that?
They're wearing each other's clothes. Alexa's
Balor
wearing
Sasha doing the
I mean,
nice.
Alexa, who's 5'0" nothing,
right,
and Braun Strowman, who's 6'8" or whatever. He's just an enormous human being.
Team Little Big, right? Yeah,
right. She's wearing his shirt. Hilarious. Like, that's fun. It's endearing. It's engaging. The kids love it, but also I think the adults are entertained by it. And I think the more you always let people be an extended version of themselves, like I think you're starting to see what Finn Balor, I would say the last couple weeks, finally, where they're letting Finn Balor kind of just be him, and he's kind of a jerk, and it's kind of great, and that's what they needed, and I like that. I think that's always where you're in the strong suit, rather than trying to force gimmicks on people or make them something they're not. And I hope that they understand too, if they want to keep Rude, they need to let Rude be Rude. You can't let him be a face. You got to let him be a heel and just do that. Certain guys, let Ziggler's persona that's developing be his own thing. Before we close the chapter on SmackDown 2 and hit 205 Live real fast, your real take on this whole Sammy Kevin thing, where do you see this ending up? Is this the two of them at WrestleMania against each other, or do you think this ends up with some sort of weird Daniel Bryan getting back into action as these rumors go back and forth? Yes, they will. No, he won't. And him and Shane McMahon.
Yeah, that's been the most frustrating part of SmackDown, is how they're kind of they weirdly booked Daniel Bryan as the heel and Shane as a face, even though Shane was doing heel things to the heels. I guess it was just a weird storyline telling there. And I think Sammy Kevin is the most obvious way to go here. Maybe flipping his. I don't know how you could flip Kevin Owens to be a babyface. That's a really tough character change, I guess, for him. Sami Zayn being the babyface, they're kind of trying to get away from that obvious booking with him being a babyface, because that's his natural way. The heel change, I think, has been refreshing for him. I think that's the way to go with Sami as the heel and Kevin Owens as someone else. But I could easily see Shane getting involved in that match somehow. Maybe a tag team match with Shane and somebody else, but. Two McMahons in tag team matches at WrestleMania, that's not really, wetting my whistle. So.
Do you buy into the idea that Daniel Bryan wants back in and they're not letting him, or they're just saving this, or is he just going to walk away when the contract is up and go back and wrestle because that's what he wants to do?
I would love to see him back in a ring in some capacity. I'm not sure if WWE, being the often conservative way they are about these things, will let that happen. I mean, if they surprise me and say Bryan's wrestling at WrestleMania, I would love it. I'm not holding out hope for that.
Yeah, I'm of the same mind. I think there's a better chance of seeing him leave the company and go independent again, which would be a huge win for one of these companies. Yeah. To pick him up, because I think there's always that groundswell of the base that loves him. And I get it and I understand why. So we'll see how that works out. And I can't fault WWE for letting him walk too, because they've taken so many hits over the years for so many things. If you're going to have these policies in place to protect these people, then you have to take them seriously. And I mean, if the doctors all came back and they said, look, he's fine, he can go out and do this, and he gets cleared, and they still don't let him, are they being jerks or protecting themselves, or, or are they just really trying to still take care of the wrestler and the performer?
Yeah, I think our fan wishes get in the way of reality sometimes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I would agree with that. All right, 205 Live, you've mentioned, has been much better of late. A lot of Rey Mysterio discussions also swirling around the internet last couple of weeks too. Obviously, that title was vacant with, when Enzo finally had one too many issues. And, people want to say, well, what happened to Enzo Amore? And, well, is this girl lying, or all these things? And, at the end, it didn't matter. It was just I think the straw that broke the camel's back with that guy, where you have so many issues and people don't like him in the locker room that it just became a liability. So what are your thoughts? Where do you think they're going to take this whole division now that it's kind of wide open? You had Rich Swann kind of out of the scene. Now you had Enzo had to vacate the title. I love Cedric Alexander as much as the next guy, and he's brilliant in the ring. Doesn't have a great, out of the ring persona yet.
Yeah.
But, I mean, where do you take this right now? I mean, how do you build this division, and is it something that they should really keep building separately?
I think they have to keep making its own thing. I like the confessional booth they use, like in the real world. I think that's kind of a nice element to kind of let them just free flow a little bit, freestyle promo-wise. TJP's actually been really good at that lately, being the entitled douche heel type of thing. I think Cedric's the champ. He's going to win it, I would believe, at WrestleMania, because they've been kind of pushing him ever since the Cruiserweight Classic when they had that great match with Ibushi. I think he's Triple H's guy for now.
Well, he's incredible. I mean, the guy,
got to work on the promos, though, like you said.
He's got to work on the promos, but I think the way you do that is, here's how you do it. Some folks need the belt, right? Because the belt gives you a little bit of cachet. I mean, I don't want to say AJ Styles needs the belt, but, AJ's never going to be Shawn Michaels on the microphone or Triple H on the microphone. He's never going to be, those kind of high caliber guys get on the mic and can talk for 20 minutes and captivate somebody. There's never going to be that. So AJ's credibility comes from the in-ring work. The respect of the people and the love of the people comes from the things he does in the ring. It's more palatable nowadays, like I said, because people respect that more, and they will support you more if you have that and you're not a great talker than it was previously in the business. Usually you had to do both if you're going to carry the championship. Now, in a ways, I feel like the championship kind of hides that a little bit. And look, let's face it, I think it hides it with Lesnar.
Yeah, well, Paul Heyman hides it with Lesnar too.
But that's how bad he is. He needs Paul Heyman and the belt, and he only shows up once every 3 weeks. So
that's a whole other issue. But yeah. Either way, I'm looking forward to. I hope it's like a Cedric and Roddy getting the wins. Last night was great, and I think Roddy's really becoming into his own. It's just that don't let him talk, but let him wrestle. Another type of guy like that. But Mustafa Ali has a ton of charisma.
Yes.
I think there's a big future with him. With Drew Gulak has been killing the show, obviously, for numerous weeks as that, the no-fly zone guy. And
I was going to say, is it wrong that I love Drew Gulak so much?
No, it's not. He's a dorky white guy heel. It's great.
He's a dorky white guy heel who doesn't have a great body, who doesn't do, but he's good in the ring, and he's got almost, I don't know how to put it, like it's almost like a character from one of those, Reno 911 kind of shows. Like he's got this whole like improv comedy feel about him that I just freaking adore, and I love it. And it just plays. And it's a shame that the whole Enzo thing booked away, because that was a great foil developing there with him.
Yeah.
But I love me some Gulak, and I'm not ashamed of it.
That's gonna be a heck of a tournament Final Four. Those will be two great matches, I think, if it sets up like that, which I think it should.
All right, real quick, give me NXT report too. I know we saw some of those guys. Cien Almas came up for Royal Rumble. I thought he had a really nice showing during that period. Where's NXT right now for you? What are you looking for in the next couple of weeks here as we head into that takeover?
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting tonight. I have to check the match list for tonight, actually. But the Shayna Baszler, Kairi Sane's going to be headlining tonight's episode.
Yeah.
As we record this, it's going to be a fantastic match. Those two, I mean, they've been booking Shayna, as I said before, so well as to kind of hide what she can't do, but accentuate what she can do, which is what any good wrestling promotion should do. So yeah, the women's division's ridiculously stacked. They haven't even had, Peyton Royce and Billie Kay on television for other reasons. And, it's just...
They're next. They're coming soon.
I think
they
need... They're great characters, and they need somewhere else to shine. And Aleister Black, that Killian Dane Aleister Black build is going to be great. Yeah, and the Gargano stuff being the highlight of things. I think I don't think he's getting called up just yet. I think they are going to play off that that loser leaves NXT stuff with Almas a little bit more, and Ciampa has to be a little bit more involved in there because that's just fun stuff to build up, and definitely could prepare a bit more for next week with the results that happened here, because we'll have more time at the pay-per-view to discuss things. But all Velveteen Dream all day for me. That's all.
100%, dude. That I watched that match twice with him and Aleister Black from a couple months back, and that was just that was just you talk about psychology of a match, right? You talk about telling the story with choreography, which is really the high art form of this business. And that was one of those great things. And look, the Jericho Omega match was a fantastic one as well. When you go through that, and it's just it's great to see that still floating around. And who knows? I mean, maybe we'll see a little Y2J WrestleMania appearance. You never know. That would be fun for sure. It is the big event. You never know who might show up.
Has Naito beaten him up yet? I haven't caught up on New Japan yet.
I haven't seen it in a little
Tranquilo,
weeks.
I guess, too tranquilo, but
it's I did see Wrestle Kingdom, and I did watch a couple of the shows afterwards, and some of the guys I got over there, the Ospreys of the world, and they've got some real talent there. And look, the NXT is doing a great job too. And if you and I are right in our assumption that Vince McMahon's going to be looking towards XFL and Triple H and company are going to be running this show, you're going to see some really great stuff in the next coming months, and possibly this year might be outstanding. All right, if you like the show, obviously retweet this for all of wrestling world with I guess the hashtag point to the sign. You can follow Tim on Twitter at Tim_Heaney, HEANEY. You can follow me at Joe Pisapia 17. Want to thank Bogman and Welsh for giving us this opportunity to do the show. We'll be back soon, and hopefully you enjoyed it. And remember, kids, to be the man, you gotta beat the men, and we are the men. Woo!